gate and the access to Felton Gables. For years, going to play school, all of the families from Felton Gables were able to come to the park as a safe route to play school. It is extremely challenging to try to, the school is really encouraging everyone to ride bikes and to walk, and it's very, very tricky to try to get across Middlefield to get to the other side of the street to try to ride a bike. There's a lot of traffic in the morning in and out of Holbrook Palmer Park through cars, and if you're going down Watkins. And so Watkins to Middlefield is not a safe route for our children. So I really think we need to either work out an agreement where people can, on this side, also have access to, I know that they currently have keys that they pay for, which helps pay for the insurance. I don't think there are many of us who would have a problem with supporting that overall process if it's an issue of insurance. But if not, I think we should either close it off completely or charge $10,000 or $30,000 for any resident or Felton Gables homeowners association or anybody from Felton Gables is going to come to the park through their individual fences or through the other fence, just to basically, communicate that it's important for us to work together as two communities. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Alan Miller. Yes, where my children go to school. Yes, I just wanted to second and third the comments made by Paul and Lund. Thank you very much.
I'm Carolyn Bowers. I live over at 67 McCormick Lane, relatively new to Atherton, new to Encinal this year. I have 3 children under the age of 8, so I have a lot of Encinal years ahead of me. I've taken the route across Middlefield. People don't stop at Watkins and Middlefield, not easily, even with small children on bikes, and it's terrifying. So I really do hope that you will take this issue very seriously and hear us. Thank you.
My name is Pat Haynes, and I wish my children were little and I could talk about that, but they're not. I'm here because I want to talk about quickly Town Center Task Force. I live next door, and I've had the honor and privilege to be involved with the idea of the Town Center building and its predicaments since early 2008. I was initially part of the what we call Blue Ribbon Task Force, and there's some people in this room that can relate to that because they were on that too. And now I'm part of the town, so I got to continue when that stopped, and now part of the Town Center Task Force. And the only reason I think that I own the illustrious privilege of having done this the whole time. So I've kind of watched the histories and the comings and the goings of all the members. And they've all been very respectful, wonderful, community-spirited people with big hearts and big brains, and it's been an honor and a privilege. I'm only here to say that along those lines, I did bring some minute meetings from 2008. I want to clarify the misconception that there was ever a discussion of commingling funds for the library project and the town center project. Initially, we all started together. The town center people, Joan Sanders is here. We were all wonderful people thinking, oh gosh, we have these public services to deal with. And we all started out kind of together, and then there became somewhat of a break because there was some confusion about somebody commingling funds. But in fact, and I can show it in the minutes, it was made very clear in October of 2008 that the funds would never be commingled, and so that's the way it's been. Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Dee Fisher. My address is 38 Tuscaloosa Avenue, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for allowing us all to speak tonight. I'm here to represent a lot of citizens who have asked for a master plan study of all of our buildings and facilities in town and properties before any decisions are made for any buildings that are to be placed, moved, or changed. You might ask why a master plan? Well, as I look around, I see all these different plans on the walls for different buildings and different kind of landscapes, and good practices would be that this town steps back and says, well, where are we going? What is our town vision? Are we afraid to ask the questions? A good master plan would, I would hope, lead us to a town discussion and some maybe choices that the town can be involved with of placements, street closings, possible who knows what. If you hire good people to do this plan, we might find that we have a lot of interesting ideas that might come forth. So last week I presented over 200 signatures asking for that. The mayor denied that I was put on tonight's agenda. So I then proceeded to go back to our municipal code, which allows for 100 signatures to ask for a special meeting for a purpose. I have tonight submitted 300 names, and they're still coming in, to ask for a special meeting to discuss the master plan. I have to point out that in the past, well, first of all, the Planning Commission asks for master plans from Menlo School and Sacred Heart schools for anything they do on their campuses. Shouldn't we be living by those same criteria? And also in the past, when I was associated with the town council, major changes in the park went out to the residents for their opinion. For example, Little League, that was very controversial. Went out to the town, we now have a Little League field. Two pools were at one point suggested at Holton Common Park. Went out to the town, that failed. A bonsai garden was proposed for the park, that failed. So I just think there's a lot of issues that are coming forth. All of a sudden, there are a lot of residents paying attention. You're often told that Atherton residents don't care, it's hard to get their attention. Well, let me tell you, 300 emails in 2 days tell me that they are paying attention and they're in contact. So I'm here tonight to ask that we have a special meeting and hope that the council will come back with a date in the next 2 weeks to provide that. And I think that there will be a lot of input and people that would be interested to see what would come out of that.
Once the original signatures have been verified, I will ask Teresa to set up a time for a special council meeting to discuss what you want.
Well, I guess I have to ask, the municipal code does not ask for verification. And by the way, I'm not making up names. They're all, I recognize most of them. I think you would if you read them.
I just am taking the advice of our attorney.
Well, the municipal code calls for 100 signatures. It does not say verified. It doesn't say written. It doesn't say.
As I say, I'm taking the advice of our attorney if he wants to.
Mr. Mayor, it does call for signatures. Emails by case law are not signatures, they're not signed. There's something out there called E-Verify, which we don't have. But if we had E-Verify, it would be questionable as to whether or not the city code refers to that. But it does require signatures, which is usually considered to be wet, written with a pen or pencil to show that they've signed something.
Okay, I guess I'm not an attorney. And it wasn't explained clearly in the section of the code. And I kind of am upset that 2 attempts have been made, and both times we've been sent away. And so we now need to get wet signatures. I'll go back, and I'll probably come back with more than 300. And there will be a lot of very angry people in this community that are going to say, technicalities. I guess it's over here.
Through the chair. Can I? Through the chair.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I just think that we're looking at a tremendous amount of public outpouring of opinion here, and we're in a modern age of electronics and emails, and we have a reputable citizen in front of us who's not making this up. I would like to ask my fellow council members to respect this at this point and at least agree to call a special meeting to talk about having a master plan done for all of our town projects. I think that's the most reasonable and rational thing to do at this point. So I'd like to call for a motion. I'd like to make a motion to do that and call for a second.
I thought we had signatures.
There are some.
I don't think there's any doubt that we're gonna have a special meeting. I'm just trying to follow the rules.
So I think.
As have been explained to me by.
I think that we could call for a special meeting right here, right now, Mayor, if we wanted to. I think that that's within our authority to do. And so I'd like to just go ahead and do it and schedule something within the next 2 weeks and respect the 280, 300 people that have been out there that have expressed this, this desire for a master plan statement.
I don't really have a problem with that.
Yeah, but honestly, I think that in what came on Friday, and perhaps some of the ones you have today, we could add these together, but there was 200 on this.
There's 300 more today.
And many of them were not by email, but were signed, held up for exhibit, okay? So, you know, I'm not sure, with all due respect, Bill and Mr. Mayor, but I think that there are really, probably, we could squeeze out 100 signatures from here.
Well, I'm happy to ask Teresa to set up a special meeting in the next 2 weeks, if the council so desires.
I'm in favor of that, Mr. Mayor.
So do we need a motion for that?
It would be preferable, Mr. Mayor, to have a motion to set a special meeting.
I'll make a motion that we ask Teresa to set up a special meeting to discuss the items on the petitions for the council.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you all very much, and I'm sure Bill will be fully members for everything you do.
Charles Masala, 33 Elm. It's reunion night tonight. I noticed 3 other council members here from past days, and good to see everybody. So I'm also here to kind of tap into what former Mayor Fisher has talked about. I started in '99 on the art committee and was assigned to work on an art facility in the park. Met with the foundation, Park and Rec committee, and then moved on to Park and Rec in 2000, where we studied again what we could do with the park at the direction of the council. I was on part of a group called the Elmwood Group, headed by Carlos Perez Rubio, that spent about a year and surveyed the town and what the residents were looking for in the park. In 2002, I was appointed to the council. We ran unopposed. And in 2003, I was appointed to the JPA, where I served for 5 years. 2005, the library, JPA represented the town. In 2005, I was appointed to the subcommittee for the facilities and served there for 3 to 4 years, working on town facilities, redoing the pavilion, and then chaired the Blue Ribbon Task Force. So I had a couple emails that came across my desk asking if I would be here tonight to talk about a few of the items that we're addressing in this future meeting will. One of the things I'll point out is as former Mayor Fisher said, at the park, everything has been so meticulously discussed. We put the children's playground in, and I remember the debates we had for how many square feet it could be, where they were trying to expand it to get one more swing in. It was like, nope, you can't have it, because we so value our green space. And this is what the playground has been, and we're just not going to give you that much latitude. There was a survey done in '59 on the park of residents before we accepted the park and how people wanted it used. So at this point, I do want to say Jim Jansen and I created the Blue Ribbon Task Force and created suggestions for members that the council approved. We put a lot of residents on it in Friends of the Library. One of the things, though, was an idea to use, should we keep the library here as part of town center? And as being on the JPA, I did get a motion passed that said that the JPA agreement would allow provisions for donor cities to be able to transfer donor city funds in a validated manner. That was passed. A couple months later, Councilmember Keith had asked that the motion be rescinded until further note, but I did make it for Atherton. I made it for all because there's more than one donor city. So as far as if you wanted to keep it here, you have a lot of money, you don't have to put it in the park because those funds can be used for this facility or a facility over there for the library, whatever. You can't keep it part of downtown. You might have to go to the JPA board and ask, but that's all council members, and they're supportive, or at least they were at that time. And people change, just like the vote tonight could be different than the vote was when some of us were on the council. So I hope you keep that in mind. I would survey the residents. There's some merit to putting it in the park, but there's so many people that I think you should get the opinion of the full town on this item of the survey.
Any other public comments?
I'd like to speak from over here.
Are you talking about the library?
Yes, I thought it was gonna be in the initial public comment. It
Well,
didn't be in the
I wish-
library item, that's
Would you
fine.
wait until we get to the library, and
Absolutely.
then you can talk. Next item on the agenda is the city manager's report.
Yeah, council members, I don't really have anything to add to this report other than some disappointment that on further inspection of our phone system, which is degrading badly, that the allocated funds for the voice over IP system are not going to be adequate because the wires are degraded so badly. But we might be able to work out some sort of a hybrid mix on it to sort of carry it over for a while. We're going to need to do some more research on that before we proceed. And we're not going to be able to reboot the system too many more times either, because every time we reboot it to get it to work again, it has, and I know some people have had some frustrations on voicemails coming through 5 days later. Every time they reboot it, the system loses some capacity. So, but wiring is so old, we can't get the whole thing done. So we'll go back and we'll take a look at it again. We'll try plan B and see if we can get back in.
Could you give everybody temporary cell phones with, just for direct access or something, so? I don't know.
I just took all the phones away.
I know. $100,000 for the new system.
So maybe we could do a hybrid system until we figure out what's happening with the town center.
Okay.
Could I ask the city manager a question here? City manager, I got an email today from the police chief that another successful transaction made by them. Maybe you'd like to tell the community about that.
Congratulations.
Well, probably the chief could do a better job of it, but
In fact, would you just 30 seconds?
and say it's a great story.
Yeah, we got a call early this morning about a couple of suspicious characters in a van in one of the neighborhoods, and a couple of our officers got on it right away, and we realized that one of them was under the influence of narcotics, and another one had some outstanding warrants. That was that was the cursory to a search of the vehicle with it, which produced a lot of copper. And we're trying to trace that down to other areas. There's been a rash of copper thefts on the peninsula. So we're working with other agencies on that, so it was some good police work. This is a real problem around the area here, including the state and across the nation. So it was some really good police work, and the officers did a good job, so I should be proud of them.
Good job. Good job.
Thanks, Jerry.
Next item on the agenda is a consent calendar, which is, most of you know, are generally for routine items. However, any member of the council or any member of the public can pull any of those items out for further discussion. So I would ask, first of all, the council for any items they wish to pull out of the consent calendar.
So I have on the minutes, there's a correction on page 5 of 7, at the top of the page, that the word not should be inserted between should and be. Okay. That's right. And then I'd like to pull item number 11, and I have a question about item 12.
I'll let you run through item 11 and 12.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask a question on 13. I'd like to discuss 15 and 17.
Okay. Kathy?
some questions about 17, but.
Most of the items I had were raised, so we'll hold off on those to the end of the meeting if the council agrees.
Mayor, I just have a question on item number 12 that could really be
Go ahead,
answered.
go ahead.
So it says that it's going to report back in 4 months regarding the effectiveness of the impacts of the measure. I just wonder, how is that going to be monitored, and who's going to pay for the monitoring to determine the effectiveness of the signs?
What we're doing is we're gonna be doing before traffic counts and then after traffic counts. And the cost of that is part of the budget that we have included in your staff report.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay, and I would just point out not one, this came before the Transportation Committee. We've tried all kinds of measures there to try to limit the traffic on Holbrook Lane. This is really the only one that the residents would accept, so that's the reason it's here. Okay,
And additionally, pull 14.
Lauren?
14, we also
14. Okay. Any others? Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor, not to be difficult. The only reason I was going to pull number 11, just to talk about the Environmental Programs Committee a minute, and to talk about the High Energy Home Program. So if you want to, I just don't want to wait until the very end to do that. It's not controversial.
You want to talk about it right now?
Can I please? Okay, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. So item number 11 has to do with our Environmental Programs Committee, and the approval is to accept $9,400 in private donations that have come to the Environmental Programs Committee. So we're going to put that towards our budget, which is really a good thing, because our budget got slashed from $29,000 to $5,000 this year. So we're very grateful for that. But I wanted to point out and bring to everyone's attention, and I have flyers here from Actera regarding high energy homes that I'd like to make sure that if anyone is interested in. High Energy Homes program is a program where you can log on to PG&E and get an assessment of your PG&E bills. And there are 240 slots available as of October 15th. 14 Atherton residents have been participating, which is only 6%. And so we still have more capacity for our Atherton residents. The other cities, our neighboring cities, are Los Altos Hills. They've got 5%. Montessorino is only at 1%. Portola Valley is up at 19% of participants, and Woodside is at 4%. So even though our ratio is pretty low, our energy savings is really great. We've already achieved 42% of our energy saving target. So it just shows you that if you can log on to this High Energy Home website and log on to it, if you can and participate, you can really get a lot of savings to your high energy bills. And so I'm going to leave these flyers. It's at terra.org/high energy.
Do you have a link on our website?
It is. It's under the Environmental Programs Committee, Atherton2020.org website, which if you haven't logged on to the Atherton2020.org website, you really need to, because it's a treat. Our resident, Valerie Gardner, put it together, and it's very professionally done. It's very slick and very informative. Thank you very much.
Do you want to leave that in the consent calendar, or do you want a special motion to accept it?
No. Oh, you can, okay, great. Thank you.
Leave.
We'll just accept it now.
I move to accept it.
She did it, I have a second. You've already done a good job raising it.
Okay. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
You accept it?
Okay.
Well, we haven't accepted the rest of them yet.
No, just this one.
He just
We
did a
separate.
special one.
We did a special.
That was approved, so.
That was very nice for Valerie. She'll like it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is public hearings, and it's item number 18. Oh yeah, first of all, we've got to approve the consent calendar. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, accepting items 11, 13, 15, and 17, and 14?
11's okay now.
11's okay, all right.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Second.
Item 18. Would anybody like to speak about this, Lisa?
Good evening, council members. The item before you is a request to amend the Atherton general plan as well as a ordinance to pre-zone the subject site to R1A. The subject site at 70 Camino por los Abuelos consists of 2 legal lots, and one of them is just under 35,000 square feet. The other lot is just over 5,000 square feet. The smaller lot is actually located within the town of San Mateo. It's outside of the town limits. The 2 properties have been under common ownership since 1965, and the current owner thought they were purchasing the property when they acquired the site. The larger property does have frontage along Camino por los Abuelos, does contain a main residence as well as a pool house. And the smaller property is landlocked, it doesn't have any access to a street. It does contain a small detached accessory structure. So the request is to amend the general plan, and the land use designation for the smaller site would be low-density, single-family residential, which is consistent with the general plan designation for all the residential properties in Atherton. The request is also to pre-zone, and the pre-zoning would be to the zoning code designation of R1A, which is consistent with the properties surrounding the subject site. The Planning Commission did hear this item at their September meeting, and they did vote to recommend that the City Council take both actions, the amending the general plan as well as the pre-zoning. If the council were to take action on that in the affirmative, it would go then to LAFCO, which is the Local Agency Formation Commission, which opinions on the boundaries and the annexation requests. If LAFCO was to take an affirmative action on the item, it would come back to the council, and then we would formally accept the annexation. The pre-zoning would then become effective as well as the general plan amendment. So this is kind of the first step in the process. The other item that would come back to you would also be a property tax exchange between the county and the town of Atherton. I'd be happy to try to answer any of your questions. The applicant's representative is also here this evening.
Any questions, Jerry?
Is there any opposition to this?
We have not heard any opposition. We did do a public notice of both the planning commission meeting and this meeting, 5 minutes for radius. I got a couple of calls that were just kind of curious. They said, oh, we always thought that was in Atherton. So once we explain the situation, no concerns.
Does the property get reevaluated for tax rolls, and does the tax roll then roll into Atherton?
That would be correct, yes. We gain by 5,000 square feet.
So we don't have to do a tax swap with the county?
That will come back to us. We'll need to talk to the county about any kind of tax exchange. We haven't had that conversation yet. It's more common in commercial properties where it's kind of more phased in because they're really losing some revenue. This is so minor, and it's probably such a low tax assessment rate currently. I don't think it'll be much of an issue, but we will need to work out those details.
Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the town staff to conduct a public hearing, introduce an ordinance pre-zoning R1A, amend the general plan map to include a portion of the property located at 70 Camino por los Alvarez for annexation in the town of Atherton based on the findings of the staff report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the environmental review process for the new library. And I guess the report is coming from Mike Peschel.
Yes, Mayor Dobbin, members of the City Council. After June 15, 2011, the City Council approved the criteria for the site selection process and schedule for the new Atherton Library. This initial schedule included proposed council action on the site selection at your meeting of August 17. However, due to council request for an additional community meeting, the date for council action on the site selection was postponed until tonight's meeting. The additional meeting requested by council was held on September 8th. Due to community concerns expressed at the July 5th and October 5th Park and Recreation Commission meetings and the September 8th Atherton Library Building Steering Committee meeting,
regarding potential environmental impacts associated with the library site alternatives. The city attorney has advised that due to the presence of public controversy, council should defer action until such time as a suitable environmental document can be completed and certified by the city council. At their October 5th meeting, the Atherton Park and Recreation Commission did not make a recommendation regarding the preferred location of the library. The recommendation of the Park and Recreation Committee was for the city council to conduct a townwide survey of residents' opinions concerning the location of a new library in Holbrook Palmer Park. At a October 13th special meeting of the Atherton Library Building Steering Committee, the committee adopted a recommendation requesting the Atherton City Council approve Holbrook Palmer Park as a preferred site for the new library to replace the main house pending meeting CEQA requirements. And now I'm going to introduce Denise Kupperman, who is the chair of the Library Steering Committee, who has some additional information. Okay.
I'd first like to get the screen up because I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but we do have some boards that we'd like to have shown here. How about we move this up?
Cool it.
Good evening, council members and fellow Atherton residents. My name is Denise Kupperman, and I'm an, oops. I'm not good with mics. I'm the chair of the Atherton Building Steering Committee, and I'd like to introduce the other members of our committee who've devoted 18 months to our project of evaluating the two sites that the city council asked us to evaluate for the location of our new library. We have Jenny Nile and Karen Bliss, Kathy McKeithen, Sandy Crittenden, Marion Oster, and Joan Sanders. And I'd also like to thank our prior committee members, and they were Dick Moore. Trying to go by. Dick Moore, Valerie Gardner, and Earl Douglas. I've also...
Denise, because we gotta record your voice, can you address this?
Address it.
Address the
I'm
council.
sorry, I didn't realize
That's
that was
okay.
the purpose of this. Okay. I just don't like having my back. But, oh, all right.
You should be addressing.
We should put it together.
Okay. I'd also like to thank and also like to let you know that our consultants that work with us on this project are here tonight. Group 4 architects, and we have Don Merkes and David Schnee, the library consultant Kathy Page from Page Morris. We have the San Mateo County Library staff here, and Marie Despain, who's the director of the San Mateo County Library System, and Corinne Risley, who's been really instrumental in getting us to this point. Corinne Risley is the manager of our branch library. I'd like you to join me in thanking them. You know what my topic is tonight, it's on the agenda, but before we get into the details, I'd like to talk about our existing library and how it can better serve our community. I'm sure you've noticed that we don't have an extensive collection. We do not have spaces for separate activities. The browsing area is very cramped, and the program space is extremely limited. It's not an inviting place, and possibly those of you who have not used it for some time don't use it precisely because of those things. In addition, the library has some significant seismic issues. We do not meet current seismic building code requirements, nor the minimum building performance according to FEMA. To delay going forward furthers the risk of the existing library being rendered unsafe or unusable. So we have a library that doesn't meet our needs as a community, and it has seismic problems. As a result, the town of Atherton began to investigate in earnest alternatives 3 years ago. Thanks so much to the Blue Ribbon Task Force Committee, the Friends of the Library, and the Library Task Force committees, all committees who laid the groundwork and the foundation on which the current committee, our committee, has built our recommendations. We are here tonight to show you what is possible, and we have amazing opportunities. And we are looking forward to participating in creating a facility of significance. Today, we have the financial resources and the community spirit to realize what is only a dream for many communities and to build a new library for future generations. And for the first time, we have the opportunity to intentionally choose the most ideal location for our library and to create a facility built expressly to meet expectations for contemporary library service. We are now in a position to design a building that will possess the flexibility to adapt to any changes a library of the future would want to accommodate. Andrew Carnegie said, "A library outranks any other one thing a community to benefits its people." And we are hoping that we can do that in a really fantastic way. Before discussing the issue regarding the site selection, I would like to review, for those of you not intimately familiar with the project, a few underlying facts. As we discussed, the existing library space, resources, and services are inadequate to meet the needs of the current library users, and worse, the library does not meet current seismic codes, or even the minimum building performance. If we do not make this change soon, we do run the risk of our library being rendered unusable or unsafe by a seismic event. If this happens, the town would be without a library for some time. Faced with the potential seismic retrofit requirement, the town decided to commission a needs assessment to determine whether the existing library was serving the community's needs. The findings from the needs assessment conducted in 2009 were that the existing library is not providing the community the library service it deserves and is paying for, and the existing library should be replaced with a new library of approximately 11,000 square feet. And that assessment was the beginning part of this stage. It was not the final assessment of what the library size would be. The alternate size, style, and configuration will be determined by the town. Since the needs assessment was published, there has been much discussion